Hi there. So GitHub just announced the GitHub Copilot SDK. And the idea is that you can bring all of the powerful capabilities of the GitHub Copilot CLI, but inside of an embeddable SDK form. So first, let's go through the announcement blog, and then we'll later dive into the actual code and how you can implement this into a real world application. So now we have the technical preview support for the GitHub Copilot SDK. And the idea is that you get all of the powerful features that you get natively inside of the Copilot CLI, such as support for multiple AI models, custom tool definitions, and MCP server integrations right inside of the SDK as well that you can incorporate in any application. With the launch, we have support for 4 major languages for the SDK, including Node.js, Python, Golang, and .NET. Now, the specific instructions on how to get started are there in the GitHub repository, which we'll just cover in a short bit. So here is a code snippet that you can take a look. So we are using TypeScript here, and we are now incorporating the npm package for Copilot SDK, and we create a new client. We have the start method to initialize the client, and then we have this client.create session that will help us to create a new session for our Copilot. And using the .send method, we'll be able to get a response based on the prompt that we are sending. And here is a quick video demonstration where you can see that initially we used to use the Copilot CLI, but now you can go ahead and install the relevant SDK for of your choice, and then incorporate that inside of a full-fledged application and start to generate responses. So with this, what that means is that you can build full-fledged applications, whether you're building a GUI or you're building a YouTube chapter generator or a summarizer tool, whatever you wish to build, you can now incorporate and bring the agentic capabilities that are powered by the Copilot CLI, but inside of the SDK. So you can bring all of that agentic capabilities right inside of your application as well, which is one of the best things that is available for anyone to use and harness the power of the Copilot CLI, but just through this SDK. So this is the official GitHub repository that is also open sourced, and you can see the available SDKs and the installation instructions for those. So first, let's go through the getting started guide, which is a comprehensive guide to get you started with how you can actually use the Copilot SDK. Now, there are a few prerequisites. One thing is you need to have GitHub Copilot CLI installed, and also to ensure that you have the Pro subscription for GitHub Copilot in order to use this and access some of the more powerful models like GPT-5 or Opus 4.5 available through all of the different high powerful models. Now, in order to get started, we can just use the installation guide here and run this npm install Copilot SDK. And if you want to run them in other languages, for example, you want to install them in Python, you can just follow them and you should be able to get started. So here you can see that I already had the Python SDK installed. And if you want to send your first message, you can take a look here. So we have this main.py, which I'll follow, and I'll create a vim main.py. Insert this code here. And to go ahead and execute this, I'll just run python main.py. And now we'll just wait for the response. But essentially what's happening is that we are creating a new Copilot client. We are choosing the model as GPT 4.1, and we are waiting for it to send us a response back for this particular prompt. And it gives us the response here. So this is a very simple application, but of course you can see that how you can stream the responses if you want to add your own custom tools, because this has full-fledged agentic capabilities. So if you want to add your own tools or you want to build an interactive assistant, all of those can be met. Also, of course, you can connect it to external MCP servers. So when you're creating a session, you just have to define the MCP server of your choice, and you can also create full-fledged custom agents, customize all of the messaging, and all of this is available at your fingertips and really easy to get started. Now, I'll quickly also show you how I incorporated this inside of an application that I built. So I built this content curator, which I'll quickly show you in action. So here we can just connect it with the Extra API. So you can give it some topic to research, for example, GitHub Copilot CLI SDK. And then I want to get content for, like, let's say YouTube Shorts. So just do that. Now what it's doing is that it's basically using the Extra API to get the latest news and links related to the topic that I've just given it for research And then once it does that research, it will pass that over to the GitHub Copilot agent that uses the base model provided by GitHub Copilot CLI, and it generates me a really well documented prompt and also script that I can use for creating a reel. So here you can see that it went ahead and created a short script. So you can see that GitHub just dropped the Copilot SDK in technical preview, and all of the information here with CTA, with recording suggestions on how I can record this entire session. And I have this entire CLI where, I can also then change the platform. So if I want it for TikTok or for any other platform, I can choose that. I can also choose between the different models which are available. So this is using the entire API call. So here you can see that the main file is this copilot.ts. So here I initialize my Copilot client, and then here you'll see that I'm just getting started with the entire CLI application, and all of the available models are listed here. So I just select which particular model I want to use, and then this is my main Copilot service, which also manages the entire AI client. And it first requests whether I have the EXA key or not. By default, I'm choosing the GPT-4o model, and I also fetch what is the current platform, the current model that is being used here. And then once I'm ready, then I'll go ahead and create a new session. So here I'm creating a session. Of course, we are not having any MCP server, so we're just creating a simple session with streaming as true. And then of course I have a prompt base for my system prompt, and then I go ahead officially and initialize my Copilot client, where I first connect to GitHub Copilot, and now I just go ahead and run the application. So whether I want to perform any tool call, in this case I'm getting the responses from EXA, which is an AI service that does real-time search for you. So in this case, it does real-time web search capabilities for the research topic that I've given to it, and it passes over to Copilot that goes ahead and now furnishes the proper formatting for what that particular output should look like. So in this case, it would be a well-formatted idea and script for my application. So this is a quick demonstration of how you can basically build full-fledged applications. You can see that in my package.json, I'm actually using the GitHub Copilot SDK here. And mostly when you want to use, you just initialize a new client, you start a session. If you want to add some custom tools, all of those can also be done very easily, which have already been documented here. So if you want to add streaming responses, just add streaming is true. If you want to add your own custom tool, so just define that tool, because there is a dedicated built-in method within the Copilot SDK to define a custom tool, which you can also use. And if you want to add an MCP server, as we have covered earlier, you can also connect it with external MCP servers. So right now in this example, I used the XRTS, but I could have also used the EXA MCP server, because there is an official MCP server available for EXA. So you can also actually do that if you don't want to use the API and the SDK for EXA. So there are a lot of different opportunities and built-in capabilities for building full-fledged agents. So this was an agent that for curating content. Similarly, you can create a lot of different kinds of agents with the help of the Copilot SDK. So it's a really powerful feature, and you can take a look, get started. It's very easy to use it and build full-fledged agentic applications. So thank you so much.